Hello, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's Onepoint Oneness meditation session. For those of you that are here for the first time, my name is Matthew. I'm part of the team here at Onepoint Consulting. And these sessions we've been running now for over 4 months. And the idea came because a lot of us in the company have a regular daily meditation practice that we find really beneficial. And so we thought it would be a good idea to share this with a wider audience so that more people could benefit from learning a bit about meditation and methods, how to make it more effective. So today, I'm very pleased that we're joined by Rachel Priestman. Rachel, I'll just ask you to join us. Hi, Rachel. Hi, can you hear me?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
Sorry about that. Good, thank you.
Good.
Hello to everyone. Lovely to be with you.
Yeah, very warm welcome. So just by way of a quick introduction, Rachel's been practicing Raj Yoga meditation for 15 years and says she's amazed by the changes it is helping her to make in life, which is now more peaceful and purposeful and infinitely more enjoyable, which is great to hear. She's particularly grateful for the understanding and inner strength it's given her in supporting friends and family members in poor health. Her work interests include research, librarianship, PR, marketing, events and festivals, urban regeneration, and arts management. Quite a selection. And she's now a full-time volunteer focusing on public engagement activities. So without further ado, Rachel, I'll hand over to you. Looking forward to the session.
Thank you, Matthew. And thank you everyone for joining us today. I really love the topic that I was asked to speak and then give a meditation on, practicing self-care now. Perhaps we've heard quite a lot about self-care, particularly in recent months. But I'd like to explore what kind of self-care we're talking about. I like the fact the emphasis on now, and also that it's an element of practicing it, of learning it, of experimenting with it, and discovering new things through it. And actually, you know, if I were an advertising copywriter and I wanted a call to action for meditation, practice self-care now would come pretty close to it. So self-care is, and I think many of us have read about looking after our health, getting exercise, eating healthy food, having a good chat with a friend, time for quietness, all of these things, yes. But I'd like to think more about the inner self. So we know about hygiene, we know about cleanliness, we know about keeping fit, but what about hygiene of the mind, cleanliness of the mind, and keeping the mind alert and active and engaged and creative? And I think sometimes we get so busy, I know I do, we get so busy with all our to-dos that we can lose sight of actually how we want to be. And so the self-care I'm interested in particularly, and I've benefited in particularly, is that learning to spend time with my inner self, with that being inside, that consciousness that is who I really am inside. And it's been said that meditation is actually a form of cleaning, of cleansing, because what I'm doing is I'm cleansing my mind of the things that may be from the past, disappointments, hurts, or concerns about the future, confusion about too many choices. I'm allowing my mind to clear, be still, be quiet. Because when I'm in that state of stillness and quietness, then I'm able to make the right decisions and I can see what's valuable and not valuable. And then I come from my best self. I come from my state of power. And this, I think, is particularly important at this time. We don't know how things are going to go. We don't know how much is going to be demanded of us. I remember what actually brought me into meditation was various sad and shocking things that happened to my family. And I remember thinking, it's not that I can't take anymore, I can't give anymore. I felt so depleted and empty. And so meditation, Raja Yoga meditation, is a way of keeping myself topped up, of filling myself up with good feelings, with positive feelings, re-energizing those inner qualities and inner strengths that all of us have, so that then when whatever happens, I'm better able to deal with it. And so perhaps we can just start now by just practicing some self-care now. And then I invite you to just keep practicing, keep trying, keep experimenting. As many of you who will have been listening to a few of these knows, there are lots of different ways of doing it. And the mind is such, it's like a child. The mind doesn't want to do the same thing every day. And the child doesn't want to play the same game every day. So I have to be like a benevolent, creative, loving parent to my mind and keep thinking of new ideas and new ways to be happy and new ways to discover things and experiment and play. So I invite you all to experiment and play for a little while now. So sit comfortably, excuse me, and I know you're probably sitting either in an office chair or a chair at home, but I'd like you to imagine that you're sitting on a very comfortable, beautifully made wooden sun deck chair on the side of a lake. Even just the thought of it makes you feel better, doesn't it? So keep that thought, the power of the imagination. So you're sitting on that very comfortable chair and you're imagining in your mind who you really are. That consciousness, that spirit of light. You're imagining that you're going to have a conversation with yourself, with your inner self. So in front of you on the screen, there is a tiny point of light. And just imagine that that point of light represents the spirit, the light within you, within everybody. And you're just going to have a very loving, a very interesting, a very easy conversation with yourself. And so let's think about who we really are, who I really am inside. Am I my face? Am I the job I do? The house I live in or the car I drive? These are all great. That's part of this wonderful 3D movie called life that I'm in right now. But it's not actually who I am at my core. Who I am at my core are the values that I hold dearest. That's what makes me me. So I'm thinking of things like love, happiness, wisdom. These things are what actually make us who we are. And yet, interestingly, we spend most of our time and a lot of our money looking for them outside. But actually, this is who I, the inner being, the spirit, really am. So let's just experience and explore those natural qualities of mine. So I am love. It's not something I seek or I look for or I expect. I am that, and I have it in abundance, and I'm able to share it with anyone who needs it. And similarly, we all look for peace of mind, and yet I am peace. That is my natural way of being. And so let me just give myself time to be with myself, have time for myself, to be myself, that being of peace, that being of love. And I feel something resonate inside, deep inside, that tells me yes, no matter what is going on around, or even sometimes what thoughts are going on in my head. Deep at the core of me are these qualities of love and peace and happiness. And as I remind myself throughout the day, whenever I have a chance, of this wealth that I have inside myself, true wealth, true power, which are these qualities that will always come and help me, that will enable me to make the right decisions. As I remember these throughout the day, I'm refreshing myself, I'm re-energizing myself, and I'm cleaning away what is not useful, what is not helpful. So what I'm doing is I'm letting go of what is dark and maybe heavy and uncomfortable in my mind. And I'm replacing it with what is clean and light and empowering. And I'm doing this simply by reminding myself of my own inner truth, my own inner goodness. And it's self-care because nobody can do this for me. It's up to me to make this a focus in my life, to recognize the investment that it is in my own well-being, in my own capacity to help others, and in my contribution to a more positive and happier atmosphere in the world around me. And so again and again, particularly at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, but any time, even when the red light goes or the computer's booting up or the kettle's boiling, I can just in a minute or half a minute, just remind myself of the self inside, not the face, not the personality, not the role I play at home or at work, but that beautiful being of peace and power and purity that is who I really am inside. And what happens is the more I play with these, call them jewels, the more I play with my wealth, remind myself of this inner wealth, the more it comes into my life. It's almost as if I bring it to hand, I make it close to hand, so that then when something happens, I come from that space of peace, that space of love or of wisdom. And I'm not driven by an old fear or any other negative feeling that may take me into a decision that I will then regret. And so Raja Yoga meditation, becoming Raja, becoming the master of my own mind, I choose how I want to respond. I choose how I want to feel. And I do that by choosing how I want to think. I'm not forcing my thoughts. I'm not stopping my thoughts. But I'm being that benevolent but firm parent that says, think about this, play with this, explore this. How can you use this today? How can this help in that relationship or that situation? I'm just reminding myself of that wealth I have inside me that will help me deal with whatever comes up. That love and compassion inside. That peace and stability and serenity. That wisdom and understanding. And the happiness and lightness that will help me ride over certain things and help me lighten up a room where those around me may be going through difficult times. And so in Raja Yoga meditation, I'm simply taking care of my own self. I'm taking care that I'm going to be in a good position. I'm going to be in a sense of I'm going to have a sense of well-being that will enable me to give of my best, whatever's happening around me. And then when things happen, there's a question mark, there's a decision to be made. I come from that place of strength. I come from a place of self-respect, of self-value, recognizing that I have these qualities, I have something to give, but I also have respect and value for others, knowing that they too are exactly the same. They too have these qualities. And just like I may lose sight of mine, they may lose sight of theirs. But I can help them. If I stay in that awareness, stay in that consciousness of that inner wealth, I can help others become more aware of their own. And so it really just is a case of remembering. Remembering in spite of all the other messages that we're getting at the moment. In spite of everything we hear on the media, on the news, or we see around us, let me take the initiative for my own self to remind myself of that place of goodness, that place of beauty, that place of calm inside my own self. Just like that lake we imagined ourselves sitting in front of. Inside me, there is a lake, a clear lake, calm on the surface, going deep. And so I can take myself to sit by this lake whenever I choose. I may be in a meeting. I may have heard some news. Whatever it is, I can take myself to this place of inner stillness, simply with the power of my own mind, and allow myself some space, refresh myself, give myself time to think, to refresh, to re-energize. And then I can decide what needs to happen. What's the best response? What is it that I can give? Because actually it's in the giving that there is the greatest happiness. It's in the helping others and supporting others that we come into something that is very deep and very true to all of us. And we are at a time when that capacity to give and support and show compassion and a sense of belonging is very, very much needed. But it starts with my own self. Time for the self, love for the self, value for the self. Making that an essential, not an optional, an essential part of my daily program. To take care. So that then I'm able to take care of others. And I can take care of situations the best way I can, because I'm using those inner strengths, that inner wisdom that will help me give what is needed and to give of my best. And perhaps we can just finish with a couple of minutes, just quiet, and just going back into that sense of going deep, deep inside myself, and just looking, reminding myself again of those qualities, those treasures inside myself. I am love. I am peace. I am wisdom. And I am happiness. These are my eternal truth. And when I'm in that state, I am in my pure state of being, my true self, my real self. And so I invite you today, particularly, to pay attention just whenever you can, whenever you get half a minute or a minute, take yourself back. Have a look inside, not just with your mind, but also with your heart. See and feel what's happening in there and discover all sorts of treasures that perhaps you never knew about or you'd lost sight of. And this is Raja Yoga meditation. I, the self, becoming a master of my own mind and helping others to do the same. Om Shanti. I, the soul, am peace.
Rachel, that was a beautiful session. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, lots of really useful insights. I was struck at the start when you said about it wasn't when you came across those big challenges, it wasn't so much not being able to take anymore, but not being able to give anymore. And then you spoke a lot about tuning into those inner resources and looking after the self to empower the self. And was certainly resonating with what you said about taking these short meditations sort of frequently and often throughout the day. I'm sort of aware, just to maybe ask you on one thing. You covered it in many different ways. Thinking there may be people in these times with the increase in challenges outside that are just starting on the journey of meditation. And even for myself, sometimes noticing that there are just days and times where it doesn't feel like you do have the capacity. There's just a question on what you find with your own routine. I know you've given a lot of insights, but are there any particular times of day or methods which you find are particularly good for empowering the self and building up that capacity inside?
Thanks, Matthew. That's a really good question. Actually, the best time, and if you'd asked me 20 years ago, I would have never believed it possible, but the best time for meditation is really early in the morning. And really early can be whatever is really early to you. I actually start at 4, but you don't have to do that. But basically, for me, it's like it's before the world has started waking up. And so everything feels clearer and quieter, but also I'm clearer and quieter in there. And it's almost as if it's like I'm a white piece of paper. And normally, I don't know about you, but I would only get up early in order to catch a flight or to finish a piece of work. But to get up, to think about beautiful spiritual concepts and the the goodness inside the self and the gratitude and these positive feelings, to start your day with that is incredibly helpful. It helps my whole day go better. And it's much better. I mean, it's the equivalent to brushing my teeth, but it's a spiritual way. It's like everything goes better. And similarly, bookending the day at the end of the day, and many people do that anyway. They write a diary, a gratitude diary or something like what went well, or, and instead of not punishing myself, but maybe what could I do differently another time? Because this is really, it's this experimenting, it's this rehearsing, it's this practicing. We're not going to all get it right. And it's not about comparing, oh, they're seeing purple and I'm not, or whatever. I'm simply helping myself to come into a state of well-being and more being in charge of things. And so it's different for everybody. But yes, the beginning and the end of the day are particularly valuable. And it's interesting you brought it up again, this whole thing about finding your own strength. And I also remembered something I thought when I started meditating was, I remember saying to myself, I don't need comfort, I need strength. And it's very often, I find myself, even now, it's like you think, oh, I need a cup of tea, or I need a cappuccino, or I need whatever it is. And we all have these different comforts, and there's nothing wrong with them. They're great. But actually, quite often it's quite a short-lived, fillip, or whatever you call it, short-lived, empowering experience. But the wonderful thing about when I go inside myself and I really go deep and I genuinely feel the love, or I feel the happiness, it's like it's much longer lasting. So that's why, yes, beginning and end of the day, but anytime I can, and just give myself a bit of a fillip, a bit of an uplift.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer, and certainly my experience too with what you're sharing there. I was also struck when I know we're coming to the end of the time now, but I was struck when you say, the things we'll do in terms of for work, like, if there's an early morning flight or whatever, we'll get up, but practicing the self-care to actually to get up early for the self and to prioritize one's own well-being was another really important point you touched on there. And how
funny it is that actually when I do look after myself, my work goes better.
Yeah, exactly.
And my relationships and everything.
Yes, that's exactly that. Yeah. So it's a real investment that pays off through all our interactions and our life. Oh yeah. Great. Could chat for longer, of course. Wealth of things there. But thank you so much for joining us today, Rachel. That was fantastic, and I hope you will come back future. And
Thank you.
Thank you. And next week we have Jim Ryan, another very experienced meditator. He's going to be talking about being real in a demanding world. So another great topic there. And as you'll see on the YouTube chat, there's the opportunity to fill in a feedback form. There's also a link to the Onepoint Oneness website, so you can find out about future events. And of course, I always like to mention the massive resource on the YouTube channel, because we have over 20 recordings of previous sessions. So really a wealth of experience and insights in there. And please do share those with your friends, family, and colleagues. I'm sure anyone having a look at those recordings would benefit a great deal. So it just remains to wish you all a really good day, a really good weekend, and we'll see you all again next Friday. Thank you.